Hey everybody, I'm Amy. It's time for a pro quickie. Let's see. So this is a rough one. You know, sometimes you may have to talk with a parent because you suspect their kid has been sexually abused. This is, I think, one of the most tender, complicated conversations to have with a parent. And I know y'all know that oftentimes you have to call CPS before you tell the parent, and sometimes they won't let you tell the parent. And so this is if you're given permission to tell the parent, or even if something that's really sexualized has happened and you're like, thinking we're heading this way. This is the language that I would use, and I will send you, I have actually a script for it, and I'll send that to y'all when I send the recording. So a couple things: have somebody with you, have somebody, if you can, have somebody they have a good relationship with you when you have the conversation. A couple things that helps do is it helps keep the parent calmer, and because sometimes, as you know, parents can be a problem, or the caregiver. So that will help keep them calmer. Practice what you're going to say before you say it. Have a plan. Don't use very many words. Don't use big words. And so the reason for that is you need them to hear you, right? And it will help keep the energy in the room a little more chill. And the practicing piece will also help you when you'll be less inclined to wing it. You'll be less inclined to say too many words. So practice makes progress, right? Not perfect, because that ain't a thing. So when you contact the parent, oftentimes the simplest thing to say is just to say, hey, just need to chat with you about something that went on today, or an issue with your kiddo. And just keep it like, you're not going to say like, Uncle Creepy, they said whatever. And then when you talk with them, just be very reassuring about it and say, we're talking to you because we want to make sure your child is safe. And so this might be uncomfortable to hear. And, we're here for you. We're right here with you through this process, unless you can't do that with them. So you're going to have a different conversation. And just remember, the most important person is the child, right? So when you start this conversation and when you talk to them, be very simple. Just say, this is what happened very clearly. This is what they said. This is what we said. This is what we're doing. We're mandated, right? We have to do this. And this is what we are planning to do for your kiddo as we move forward. And so be ready. If the family already knows, like they oftentimes already have a sense that something's going on. Sometimes they don't. But what you want from the parent or the caregiver is you don't want a big freak out, because that tells you something, and you don't want to, whatever, right? You want an appropriate response. So those big freakouts and those kind of whatevers can be an indication that they might already have this information, that it could just be the personal, because this is triggering, right? It could be a personal thing. So you're just going to have to trust your barometer. Sometimes I had a staff person who's actually a manager once at a Boys and Girls Club tell me that he had to have a conversation like this with a parent, and the father stood up and got really big and really loud. And this other person was a pretty big guy. So he said, he was like, oh my God, and was able to bring the energy back down in the room. So, most folks are worried about their children. They don't want to hear this. They're going to have an appropriate response. Your job, again, it's about the child. So, when you're in this circumstance where if there's a scenario where the child says that somebody that does not live in the home touched them, showed them pornography, anything along those lines. Porn exposure now is something that folks are using to groom kids, yay. So if it's someone that doesn't live in the household or isn't a regular caregiver, generally speaking, Child Protective Services will let you like have that conversation with the parent. If the person's in the household and has immediate consistent access, then that's going to be a different thing. When the person is outside of the household, the parental reaction tends to be less, right? And of course they're furious, terrified, all the words. So, there's no perfect recipe for this. And I'm sure some of you would love to hear from you, have had to have this conversation. It always helps to hear what other folks have done and said, what worked, what didn't. So I definitely want to leave space for that. So when you're interacting with that parent, if they get big, crazy, like anything that is really bringing the energy up, if you can just take a breath and say, let's just take a break for a few minutes. Let me go get you some water, and just bust up the space. It's a classic, reorganizing the energy move. The other thing you can do is just say, oh, wow, this is just so hard. And just like what I just did, right? Okay. And then the parents need support, the child needs support. So let's talk about the child a little bit. So the child needs you. The child needs you to be regular, normal, interact with them in the same way you always have, because they are going to need they're going to need a space where they're safe. They feel protected. They can be themselves, because the rest of their life may become a shit show. The adults around them may go Looney Tunes. So your job is to just be there for the child, support the family, but the child's the most important person in your world. And they need to know that, because they need a safe space, and they're with you, right? Hours and hours and hours a day, days and days and days and days, right? So you are central, right? You're central to their lives as a supportive, loving, safe place to be. Then the last thing, and then y'all can talk to me. So the last thing is that when this happens, and maybe y'all have experienced this, the family will sometimes yoink the kid out of care, because they're gonna collude to protect the family members, the adults, or whoever in the situation. This happens a lot. So there's not a ton you can do about that. So the family may remove the child from care. They may turn around and accuse you of making this thing happen or whatever. So just another thing to kind of have in the back of your head. And then, there's no perfect science to this. And someday, right, everybody will have more skill around keeping an eye out for a child and understanding when something yucky's happening, and trusting their gut around someone who, makes them feel uncomfortable and that kind of thing. So there you go. Is that my 10 minutes? Yes, perfect. Okay, thoughts. And please, if you've done this, talk about it. It's so helpful. Lauren, I see you're unmuted.
Oh, I didn't mean to unmute. Sorry. Way to put me on the spot.
Yeah, sorry. Never mind. Mute, quick.
Right.
Quick, mute yourself. Any thoughts or any other ideas? Any things y'all have done to kind of smooth the way? Go ahead. Has anyone done this?
Can I share one of my experiences? I am talking as a parent. My child experienced something in primary school. He is in the 2nd class. He's 7 years old. And last week, one of the children in his classroom showed his penis to him in the classroom setting while the teacher was still sitting there, but no one saw it. Mm-hmm. So what I did is that I talked to the teacher. I mean, first of all, I took care of my son. I thanked him for telling me, and I contacted the teacher and told what happened. She talked to that child, and of course, he denied what happened. So the teacher said, well, maybe your son, perceived something differently kind of went to there. And I said, well, I am pretty sure what my son saw. I am not worried about my son because I've taken care of his needs, and he reacted really in a very good way. He came to me and asked for help. We've taken care of those emotions also. I listened to him, but I'm really worried about the child. He must be, I mean, maybe he's going through something. Maybe he's been exposed to something. Maybe an older child played a kind of game, this kind of game with him, and he's acting out. I don't know, but I'm worried about him, and I feel like the parents need to be informed. But the teacher, I'm not quite sure if she's gonna do. So what else can you tell me so that I what else I can do maybe to make sure that this child is taken care of?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for just having that perspective, because your child's fine, right? Your child's fine. And so I love that you want to help this child. A lot of parents are like, that child's 4 parts evil, we're done with them, stay away from them. So in this age group, flashing is really common. And so it's a super common behavior. They think it's funny, and because sure, right, they're 7. So just on the surface, this could be something like that, developmentally typical. The fact that he snuck and did it in the classroom is, I mean, how's everybody else doing? Give me these if you think that's a little something might be up. Anybody there? Like a little something might be up. The teacher being, thank you, Amy. The teacher being a little like, oh, your child lied. Like we always believe a kid when they say something like this has happened. So it could just be developmentally like a typical kind of thing. You picked a weird time. So a couple of things you can do is just say to the teacher, like, hey, just wanted to check in. I'm a little worried about this kiddo. What's your plan? What's your plan for like keeping an eye on him? I'm worried, just say, I'm worried that there might be some abuse happening, or he's seen, just say porn, because he's seen some pornography and he's trying to make sense of it. And then see what she does. And you can't control her, right? But you can plant seeds, right? You can plant seeds. And then the other thing I would do is just, talk with your kiddo and just check in, seen anybody's penis this week, and try to keep it casual, because they respond, better to that. So A++++. I mean, this is the problem. We can't control adults, right? Like you have all this information and it's like, hey, this is concerning. What's the plan? What's the plan? And she can't tell you if she's talked to the parents. She can't tell you anything like that. Like we all know that, but you can ask that. And then you can also give her the book, C is for consent. I have a gift for your classroom, right?
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Right? And then they're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to do what they're going to do. Yeah. Thank you.
Would it be appropriate to approach the parents and tell what happened? Or
it wasn't, just because it was pretty like typical stuff. Do you have a relationship with the parents at all?
No.
Yeah, just you might check in. I mean, there's nothing you can do, right? If you were friends, then you could say, hey man, we had a little penis party going on, but you can't do that if you don't know them, right?
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. There's always so much to learn. All right, anybody else? Thoughts, shares? It's like circle time, only the worst circle time ever.
If possible, I try to loop the parents in when I'm making a mandated call, if that comes after telling the parents, because I know that brings some peace of mind in what exactly is being reported, and then having space to talk about it afterwards. Again, if they're on board, right? Not that throw hands up and leave the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And that, if you can, right? Like heads up, this is going to be happening. And that's the kind of thing to do, but you can't always do that. You just can't always do that. The other thing that really is effective, because one of the things that helps these conversations be easier is the, this is going to sound a little shitty, but if the family feels close to you and sees you as an advocate for their child. The reason this sounds shitty is because y'all are so busy and you're like, oh God, here they come. Okay, hi, how's it going? But if you can increase that level of closeness in a real connecting way, and have your staff do it too, right? Hey, your kiddo, so great today. Great to see you. How are you? Like even that, they need to be seen, right? And so just that greeting where it's like, hey, how are you? Everybody who is engaging with the parents the most frequently, because then when something happens, anything, that you can pull in that favorite staff person who knows them, knows their child, have that conversation. Because that just helps them. It helps everybody, and everybody wants to be seen, right? Like we all like that, right? When we go to the grocery store and the checker's like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, good, how are you? Horrible, thanks for asking, right? Because no grocery stores have people working in them anymore. So just like putting that in, it's like a toolkit, right? And I know you know this, but I think sometimes it gets overwhelming. So if you cue your staff with, hey, how are you? What's going on this weekend? Give them 3 scripts, because that way they don't have to think about it, right? Like you just give them, like, cue them up. How was your weekend? What's up tonight, right? One question, one acknowledgement, better behavior for everyone. We're all children at heart, right? What works for them actually weirdly works for us. So I just out of curiosity, I brought that up. Any other things y'all do to help your families feel closer to you or more engaged? Is there anything that you've noticed over the years that really works or doesn't? That's always good to learn from. And chat is fair, by the way, if you can't actually talk to me. And if there's anything else going on, I'm happy to talk about that. Any scenarios or concerns with kids or families. We don't have to stay on Amy's specific topic. Yes, other Amy?
I did a parent workshop just the other night about how to have conversations with your children about consent. And I do this with teachers a lot as well. And I have one coming up in December. And what I'm hearing a lot from our family community is, oh crap, we're going into the holidays. Aunt Penny's gonna come over, my grandma, my grandpa, and they're just gonna be all over our kids. How can I help our kids stand up, and say, no, thank you. How do you listen to no? How do you look for a yes? And all of that. Mm-hmm. All of those pieces too. So I'm wondering if that's on the mind of other folks here today. Just curious.
It's a good one, right? And I love that you're like, okay, here we go, right? Because this is a time where there's lots of hugging, kissing, touching, and so I think it's great that you're hearing this from the families. And so a few things, some resources for them, like C is for consent, I Can Play It Safe, and I'll send you all this. Okay. Consent for kids is great, but it's for kids who are a little bit older. So a couple things you can do, they can role play with their kids. That's the first thing. So Aunt Pearl wants a hug. You are not down for an Aunt Pearl hug because she's stinky or whatever. Don't say that, because whatever, you're not down for it. So you practice saying, hey, can I have you practice saying, hey, can I have a hug? And the kid says no, or I'm coming in for a hug, and giving the kids some no thanks, having them actually practice. Kids love practicing. They love role play, and they're really down for it. And so doing that, kid to kid, adult to kid, everybody takes turns, and it's asking first. So that's one thing, and practicing that. Now, the other thing is I would recommend sending out an email to everybody and saying, hey, just wanted to let you know, we're practicing, we're teaching our kid about body boundaries and safety. So this is our new rule to keep them safe. We just request that you ask first before you kiss, touch, or hug the kiddos. And it's weird, I know, but they need to know that they can say no to someone if they're trying to do something that feels uncomfortable, or, and if people are like, when you say like, when we have these conversations, it keeps them safer from sexual abuse. Sometimes the people will say, well, I'm not going to sexually abuse the child, right? But then you say, it's not about you. It's about teaching them how safe adults behave. And then the kind of annoying part is being aware and stepping in, right? Being aware and advocating for the child. So if the child is doing one of these, then the adult says, oh, hey, it looks like Amy does not want to have a hug right now, maybe later, and intervening. But I think most adults want kids to be safe and understand their body boundaries, right? And have that. So those two things, and then a reminder, right? And then a reminder, right? Hey, thanks for seeing it. Hey, don't forget. And could you just ask first? They'll come round, right? They'll come round, and they do or they don't. Does that help?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Good on you for asking that. Okay, how are we? All right, I got more time. Anything else? Oh, thanks, Alicia. Oh yeah, we just make big deals out of everything, right? Especially this stuff. And at the end of the day, I just like to make it simple, right? And easier. It's so hard and triggering. We have all our own crap that comes up, and then scary, right? No one wants to think about this, but if we just have these little conversations, I love doing these, by the way. I do them for parents as well. They're part of my online program, the Solution Center. They're called Hump Day Half Hours because, terrible.
Oh, I forgot I wasn't muted.
It's okay. Anyway, I love this because it gives us enough time and you enough time for us to talk about something, keep it simple, one topic at a time, right? But then where do we end up, right? And more. So nothing is off limits. So thank you for saying that, Alicia. Anything else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else with the holiday stuff. Oh, this is kind of a tough one, but if there's a way you can sort of gently say to parents, this is just something in your, if a kid ever says, I don't like so-and-so, like, I don't like them. And you say, oh, what's up with that? And they'll say, they're mean to me, or they are, they smell, or they're weird, or whatever. Kids' intuition is super good. Like ours is all smashed down, especially if you're a woman. We are socialized to be nice. So helping kids understand, like we need to trust them. So if they say that person is uncomfortable for me, then talk about it. And then maybe give the child some strategies. And you might need to say something to the parent, like, hey, your kiddo said this, not sure what's up. Just thought you'd like to know that this person makes them feel uncomfortable. Right? It's like, okay, how much else can you do? Right? It's about it. That's about it. And when the child tells you that, it's in your head, right? So then if they have an interaction with that person does come to Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, you can say, hey, how'd it go? How'd it go with Creepster? And see what they say, because you might get some more information, right? And information you don't want, right? And same with kids too, right? They don't like their cousin, they're bigger, they're mean, right? Same thing. Let the parents know they mentioned this, right? They mentioned this, just thought you'd like to know, right? Just chill a little, hey, because everybody does that. We all do better. Yeah, so there's my 37 cents or my 25 cents. I don't know where we are. So I think we have one more of these coming up. I don't know what it is, the topic is, because I can never remember. Oh, Q&A. I think we're doing open Q&A. So I'll send you an email out. And if when you get that, if you have questions, will you just email them back to me? And don't be shy. I know you're professionals, but there are no dumb questions. And if you feel like you're being stupid, you're helping somebody else. You're helping somebody else for sure. So don't be shy, and we can do them anonymously. So so that is happening in December, and then we'll pop in again in January. I feel like there was something else I wanted to tell you. I got nothing. So thanks. And if you need me, just you got email from me, just email me back. I'm happy to help, but do individual consultation. And if you feel like your staff could use a little tune up with this stuff, of course, I'm happy to do the whole training stuff that I do. So, all right, we're good. Okay, cool. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will send you stuff. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Happy Thanksgiving, if that's what you're doing in the next week or so. Take care. Bye.
Bye.